Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos. It's about 12 days now since many Nigerians took to the streets in protest of police brutality and an end to the Special Anti-Robbery Squad unit of the Nigerian Police, popularly called SARS. The hashtag EndSARS has gotten the attention of the world, and the protests continue to be staged across many states of the Federation. The protesters are not backing down at all, and it doesn't look like they're going to do that anytime soon. Today, the Senate President and the House of Reps Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, met with President Muhammadu Buhari, and after the meeting, the lawmakers are asking the protesters to back down. Last week, the Nigerian Economic Council agreed that the state governors should take charge of the process of ending and getting justice for victims in their different states. Earlier this week, we spoke with the chairman of the Governors Forum and the governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kade Fayemi. And he told us that some of his colleagues in the north, especially in Borno, believe some parts of SARS have been useful and reforms will be good. Well, but consideration should be made to accommodate some part of SARS. Well, another governor from the north has said that you cannot throw away the baby with the bathing water. Tonight, we shall be speaking with one of the northern governors, Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. He joins us live on the program tonight. All right. Governor Sule will be speaking with us on the program. But let's take a listen to what the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives said after the meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari.
The protests have taken place and the issues have been accepted. The time has come for the protests to stop because government needs to have sufficient time, a clement environment to implement the demands of the protesters. We also need to have our economy to continue to go on. When you try to stop everybody from engaging in their lawful businesses, closing roads to markets and other economic places, we distract the economy of the country, and that is not the best way to go. If the issues had not been accepted, then there would have been genuine reasons to continue with demonstrations and protests. But since the issues have been accepted, we should give government time to implement the issues. And therefore, I'm taking this opportunity to appeal to our youth who are protesting that the protests have already yielded the desired results. First of all, they say end SARS. That was the beginning. SARS was ended not by the IGP. SARS.
That's the Senate President for you there. He's asking the protesters to stop. Tonight, we'll be hearing different views from the protesters and some of those who are being in the forefront of this protest tonight on the program. And also, we'll be hearing from the federal government's perspective on what they are doing to meet the demands of the protesters. And of course, the military says that it will commence Operation Crocodile Smile. That has generated a lot of controversy. We'll be also hearing from the defense what that means for Nigerians and the protesters. First, let's speak with the governor of Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule. Thank you so much, Governor Sule, for joining us tonight. Let's get some conversation around this SARS started. We understand that some governors of the North are not really down with the idea of scrapping SARS. Is that true, and why?
Thank you very much, Seun, and thank you for having me for the program. I think the governor of Ekiti, who happens to be our chairman, has clearly indicated the reasons, and I have listened to the governor of Northern, chairman of the Northern Governors, the governor Plateau has also told you exactly the reasons. The reasons are not far-fetched. Let me speak from the point of Nasarawa State. Here in Nasarawa State, we have had a lot of robbery cases where SARS became very handy. They were very helpful. They were able to help us, especially in the state capital of Lafia. It was SARS that helped us a lot to be able to do that. I got to understand that the SARS officers were actually well-trained officers to be able to face armed robbers and to be able to face those kind of things, which other policemen will not be able to do that. But let me clearly tell you, none of the governors, including all the northern governors, is against the protest. I think the protesters have the right, to be able to express themselves, especially in a situation like we have, like democracy that we have. And I think they won. They came out and said, well, they don't want SARS, and the federal government as well as the police headquarters were quick to say, okay, if that is your demand, we have done that. So what the northern governors were saying clearly was that some of us SARS had benefited us. So what is going to be the replacement for SARS? Now that you have discarded SARS. So even in some of these southern states, there were so many other places where SARS had been useful. But just like any other part of our own system in the country, you will find some bad eggs that have done something wrong, and that's the reason why some governors were asking for reforming of the SARS instead of throwing the bathing water and the baby. Go ahead and just reform what is wrong. Even in Nasarawa State, I will give you a good example. We have had a few problems with the SARS officers where we were told, that they were taking money and releasing some of the dangerous people. And of course, we have a very good commissioner of police, Bola Lenge, and we spoke with him immediately, and he went to work. And he was able to identify one or two people, and he was able to transfer them, from one place or the other. So I think it's just like in our own Nigerian system, you must have something that is wrong somewhere. And in this case, they found SARS was wrong, mostly in the southern states. So that's what the northern governors were saying, because SARS had been useful to some of the things that we've been doing.
So let's get this perspective right. Maybe you are a governor. Are the security templates of the northern region different from the southern region?
But the security challenges of every state is different. That is what is different. I live in Lagos, nearly 18 years of my life since I returned from the US in the year 2000. Lagos doesn't have the kind of problems we had in Nasarawa State. Lagos might have robberies and things like that, but the kind of banditry, kidnapping, and things like that we have in northern part of the country, Lagos doesn't have the kind of Boko Haram they have in Borno State. Lagos doesn't have, Osun State or Oyo State and the rest of that. So it is not the security, it's the security challenges that are completely different. So you can't say what you are applying in form of security perspectives for Lagos or for Osun or for Oyo or Ogun and the rest of that. You will apply it and it will work in Borno, in Nasarawa, in Niger, in Plateau. It's not going to work. So every state has its own challenge. There is no clear template that this one fits all for everybody. There is none. Because we are different states and we have different challenges. That's what it is.
When the northern governors are saying not quite down with the scrapping, it does give a perception as though the northern template is totally different from the southern region of the country and what is playing out. The issue of human rights has come to play. And when a number of Nigerians get to the street, those who vote, those who are in power states, who do not want this democracy, do you think that the government or the governments across the country should be listening to the number of people who have taken to the streets?
I understand clearly. And to give you an example, our state, when they came, the protesters, it was the same police that guided them along the way. Shaun, let me be honest with you. Some of these things have taken a different dimension. The truth of the matter is that, and when you watch some of these videos you are showing, in certain places, just this weekend, I was in Lagos on Friday. I was in Abuja on Saturday. And now I'm back in Lafia. So I have seen some of these things practically, what they are. I drove actually, right from the airport, going through Oshodi, going through Ijora, going through, Western Avenue, all the way to CMS. There was no problem, and until we came to Awolowo Road, that's where we found some problems. And I'm telling you, everywhere you go, you will find one problem or the other, and they are different. And different people have taken this. I'm sure the genuine people that started the NSAS issue, we may not be able to control it right now because it has gone from NSAS to now 5 other items. Now it has gone to maybe some more than 5 items in some other places. So there are some other people that may be trying to hijack it. And I think that's what the people are saying. So it's not that the North is different from the South. No, a lot of us live in the South for most of our life. But the truth of the matter is that the challenges in the North are completely different from the challenges in the South in some cases. So you can approach one policy and say this is the security policy for one state, therefore it must be applied to another state. It may not work. This is what the northern governors are saying. But when it comes to this, there is no politics, there is no regionalization, there is no issue of sectionality. There's just nothing whatsoever. It is the issue of our people, and everybody is concerned about the people who voted you into power, including the northern governors, the southern governors. When we had our meeting earlier today, which I'm sure our leader, when we had our meeting was very clear. That all the governors are together. We want this country, the protesters, negotiated with people should help them, and there is so that's the position.
All right. The NEC, the National Economic Council, has asked that state governments should take charge of the reforms in the police setup. Have you begun that process in Nasarawa?
In Nasarawa State from tomorrow, what we do is that we are going to set up a committee. The head of that committee will be a job. And the purpose of that committee is protest. What are they saying? How can we approach it? How can we submit our recommendations straight away to the federal government and straight away to the and say that from our own perspective, just from what we have listened to them, somebody comes into Nasarawa, is like, we will be able to identify and know the, because we know our problem better. So it is this committee that is going to set up, that we are going to be able to do. That's what the federal government means by the state government taking it over.
Well, as it stands right now, we have the Amotekun security network in the southwestern region of the country. Since you were talking about the northern region of the country, I know there are peculiar problems to the north central region, to the northwestern region, and in fact, the northeastern region of the country also has its own peculiar security challenge. Is the northern, or are the northern governors thinking in that direction of an alternative security network to fight some of these crimes?
I think the northern governors have approached many, and the same thing. For instance, as our state, we set the community policy. We set up the committee that is responsible for that. We engage the vigilante group. Now we have what we call the NAS. We are engaging them also to come. And so far, they have been working with the other security challenge. That is kidnapping. The police that go into the bush to follow kidnappers. Sometimes the vigilante group. And as you go from one step to the other, the only difference is that we don't have a common system, like you said, Amotekun, we don't have something like that in the north. But every state is adopting a policy, that is going to be good for us, and we are working in consonance with the police. So the police are not outside; they are part and parcel of the system. That's the way we are approaching it.
All right. Just for a moment, so that we can fix one or two things with the network. Stay with us, Governor Sule. Let me quickly introduce my panel tonight on the program for you. I have joining me a very strong voice in the activism in terms of the End SARS protests. Is the son of the legendary Afrobeat musician Fela Kuti, Seun Kuti, himself a maestro, Afro musician. Thank you so much, Seun, for coming tonight.
Thanks, Seun, for having me on your show.
And from our Abuja studio is the special advisor technical to the Minister of Defense. I have Mr. Ahmed Jibrin, and side by side with him is the special assistant to the president on digital and social media, Mr. Tolu Ogunlesi. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Let me quickly ask Seun.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Seun, the government says it is meeting the demands, but why is the protest still continuing?
I think the demands of the government is hearing the slogans, but maybe they are not understanding the mission. The slogan might be End SARS, but the mission is a change in the relationship we have with governance in this country. It's not really about the police force, The people have the power to, we have taken the power to stop police brutality. If you are watching the videos, I don't think any policeman in Lagos except he goes to do it in some secluded area, can harass any Nigerian in front of his or our fellow citizens today. We have brought that awareness to the people to stand up for themselves. You know, what we're saying is there's a disconnect, a complete and total disconnect. You know, people might be saying end SARS and end SARS. And yeah, that's a slogan. You know, but the mission is a change in relationship. You know, there's this inability of our government and authority figures in general in Nigeria. It's an African problem. You know, that African people must never express themselves. You understand? So when our police forces, they say our police force is harassing young people on the street for having tattoos and dreadlocks, they say it's because they look like criminals. I mean, in this same Nigeria, we have police people guiding high-ranking 419 Yahoo boys. They have police escorts. You know, like this is the same Nigeria. You know, so I don't think the criminality of the boys is the problem. It's the fact that dreadlock is a form of expression in itself. How dare you? You understand? A tattoo on your skin is a form of your own self-expression. How dare you express yourself? You understand? So these are the things that we're saying, you know, and for me, you know, with all due respect to the governor talking about what's going on in the north and how they need SARS, you know, yeah, police brutality through SARS might not be a problem in the north, but we are ending that disconnect because our brothers in the north also want insecurity there to end now, right? So they have Boko Haram and we have police brutality, SARS killing people and all of that. So there's a different force. And before, I understand that. When our northern brothers were screaming, oh, Boko Haram, we were deaf here. We were distracted. So we say end SARS and they're distracted to understand it. But I'm saying here right now that we understand that.
All right, Seun, just for a moment, let's get the Governor Sule back into the conversation. Governor Sule, do you feel as a leader that perhaps we have approached a tipping point in our history as a people, a threshold of patience of the average Nigerian, some kind of revolution, if you want to call it, because your party promised that it's going to fix some of the structural imbalance in this country. As a leader, do you have the feeling that the people are at that tipping point?
I think if you look at what has happened so far since Mr. President has come in, he has shown, forget about party, this is not issue of party politics. This is issue now of governance, an issue of concern for Nigerians. So this is beyond politics. The truth of the matter is that this president that we have there has shown commitment to whatever is going to be for the benefit of the common man. This is a president that has shown interest more for the common man than actually the rich and the wealthy people. But like your namesake there, Seun Kuti, has been saying, he is saying that there was disconnect about some of these issues because sometimes what borders the north may not necessarily be what is a problem in the south. Quite true, no doubt about it. And you're talking to somebody who is well-traveled. I have traveled extensively in the southeast, I live in the southwest, and I'm from the north. So I perfectly understand these issues, you know, and he's right, you know. But we have the kind of president and we have a who is well-educated, very familiar with the situation in there. And we have a president who listens to the vice president. So we have a team to give that honest people that nobody can follow. So if you are talking about it, we have even in the areas of regulation, they are not against it. You know, so far they have not shown that against it. But that is a process to follow. And it's that process that I'm proud, you know, right now is not that.
All right. Governor Abdullahi Sule, it's a pleasure having you on the program and sharing your thoughts on some of these issues. Indeed, I appreciate your time tonight, Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seun. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We take a break now, everyone. And up next on the program, the Nigerian Army is set to commence Operation Crocodile Smile in many parts of the country. But why now? Find out after the break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone. The streets of Lagos and Abuja and in so many parts of cities of the country, we're seeing protesters, NSAS protesters, demanding end to police brutality in the country. And tonight, we're getting a sense of what the demands and the future holds for Nigeria as one of, the voices on the streets. Seun Kuti, Afro musician and activist, is here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, Seun Kuti, for coming. And from our Abuja studio is the special assistant to the president on digital and social media, Tolu Ogunlesi, as well as a former director of military intelligence and special advisor to the Minister of Defense on technical matters, Mr. Ahmed Jibrin. In our Abuja studio. Thank you indeed. And perhaps I should get this segment of the conversation started with Mr. Jibrin. We understand Operation Crocodile Smile will begin. The question here is the fact that the army plans to commence this exercise. The question of timing of this operation comes to question. Why did the army decide to embark on that sort of idea now?
Well, it's very important for us to know that the military is always having a schedule of activities every year. Those who are keen and are following will realize that Operation Crocodile Smile started since 2016. I think since General Burate became the Chief of Army Staff, it started, and it's usually from October to December. And so this year is not going to be another year that such an activity will not take place. It's going to take place because of the SARS demonstration. Does not mean that army schedule of activities will not hold. And in the past, it used to hold usually at riverine areas of Lagos, Ondo State, and south-south areas to ostensibly check the excesses of economic saboteurs who are conducting vandalism and also creating difficulties for economic activities to thrive. This year, it takes a national outlook because of some additional components which became necessary. We're all aware that the military is already embarking on positive identification of fleeing terrorists and bandits who, owing to the heat of the battle in the areas, they are trying to filter away from the areas and to other safer areas for them. And so Operation Positive Identification is a component of this year Operation Crocodile Smile. Another important component is the aspect of cyber warfare, fighting of cyber warfare, cyber crimes is a very important component of the military is doing. There is a dedicated command for cyber warfare. So to test their activities, to test their whatever they have been doing, this year's exercise, Operation Crocodile Smile, has this as part of its component to at least ensure that our cyber environments are safe and other issues that are being reported in the media are safe for human consumption, and they are not areas where it involves the issue of fake news and hate speeches are some of the things the cyber component will check. So the Crocodile Smile is not a new thing. It's not staged this year because of the demonstration. Such demonstration is a legitimate right. It's a legitimate right of the citizen to demonstrate if they are not comfortable with certain activities, at least to draw the attention of the government. So the Crocodile Smile will go on as scheduled, and it is not.
All right, Mr. Jibrin, apologies. Let me quickly come in here. From the statement from the military, it says that the exercise this year will focus on cybersecurity and warfare to checkmate all criminalities usually associated with the end of the year. It said this year's exercise will be more all-encompassing, and for the first time, it will involve cyber warfare. Can you explain the coincidence, considering the nature of the hashtag NSAS protest, which got its spirit on the internet and in the cyberspace. Is it just a coincidence?
It's just a pure coincidence. I have told you that it is a scheduled activity. And if you check the Army schedule of activities of this year, you will see that it is clearly there. And if you follow what is happening within the military, there is a cyber command that has just been established not long ago. And they have procured some equipment, they have done some courses, they have done some training, they are testing all these things to ensure that they will work when it comes. So if there is Operation Crocodile Tears, and then this aspect is factored just to ensure that it is working fine. It is not because of the SARS riot. But I want to assure you that in the course of the Crocodile Smile, definitely anybody that decides to engage in activities that is inimical to our democratic growth, rule of law, and against our socio-economic activities, or to try in any way to disrupt the peace and security in the country, definitely the security agencies will not fold their arms and look at him. The minimum force and whatever is required to save democracy, to ensure that there is peace and security in the country, will definitely be done. But the cyber thing, I have told you, if you check very well, because most of us, we don't care to know what is happening within the military. The cyber thing is something very, very important the military has realized, and they are putting everything possible to ensure that we benefit from what comes from all this cyber engagement, so that our domain, our cyber domain, is kept secured.
All right. So let me quickly come before I go to Tolu. Sheun, what do you think of the explanation of the defense of the military on the issue of the Crocodile Smile? Because I've heard and I've seen a lot of fear from those who are protesting, say, "Oh, this is targeted at us." Do you have that opinion too?
I don't really have that opinion. I mean, I don't see unseen threats. If the government says they are not after the protesters, then they are not after the protesters. But if they come out and they're after the protesters, the world will see that they're after the protesters, right? I mean, they can't do it in secret, you know. So
he explained the coincidence.
The proof is in the pudding.
Okay.
So if the soldiers do not stop the protest, then they are not against the protest, right? If they do stop the protest, then they are against the protest, regardless of what anybody says.
But you're not backing down anytime soon on the protest.
It is not about me. This is the.
I'm talking. When I say you now, I'm not saying Sheun. I'm talking about the body of the protesters that go out every day. It does not look like you guys are ready to back down.
Oh, well, for me, Sheun, personally, I don't want to back down. And I think the people of Nigeria don't want to back down either. And I'm a servant of the people, you know, and I follow the people how they want, because the people is always right. And in this protest that I've seen, you know, for me, I see an opportunity for the government to change the relationship. As I said before when I started, because now everybody is looking for representatives of the people. The people just voted representatives some few months ago, right? And why people are suddenly looking for representatives of the people, I don't understand it. It's an opportunity for them to use the same energy that they used to get these people's votes, to go back to them and talk to them, not look for representatives or things like that of the people. Nigerian people want to be heard. Nigerian people want to be taken seriously, you know, irrespective of whatever forces the government may have, you know, or whatever amount of power that they might control. You know, at the end of the day, it is the wish of the people that must carry through.
All right. Let me go to Tolu Ogunlesi now, who assists and helps the president in digital media and social media. Well, you have probably seen perhaps some of the most difficult times on your job since you assumed office, because the media, the social media space and the digital media space have been agog of a lot of criticism of government and institutions in the past few weeks. Tolu, the youth on the street appears not to be in sync with the efforts of the government in meeting the demands. Why the disconnect?
Thank you, Sheun. Well, I think the first thing to say is to attempt to respond to what my brother Sheun said earlier, where he said that these protests are not about the police or police reforms. And I think that quite clearly, I want to disagree with that. Quite clearly, it is a conversation about police reforms, police brutality. And when we attempt to make it sound like it is not, it is not about police reform, it seems as if we are downplaying the issue of police reform. I think there's a consensus, within government, amongst the public, amongst the populace, that there is a need to fix the police force. There's no doubt about that. There's that consensus. And I personally believe that this is the best chance that we have had in a long, long time to attempt to face this issue and to deal with it. And of course, about the 5 for 5, the demands of the protesters, which is short-term, medium-term, and long-term demands. And I think that so far government has demonstrated, quite good faith in first in accepting, in acknowledging the demands at the highest levels of government. People have spoken and said, look, we acknowledge these demands. We affirm the rights of Nigerians to agitate and to protest peacefully, and we are taking steps to meet these demands. And so if you go through the list of demands one by one, you will see that a lot of work has gone into meeting these demands. At no time in our history has police reform been on the agenda the way it is now. So this is a perfect opportunity for government and the people to come together to find a way to get this done. Short-term stuff, if you look at, the way protests tend to work is that what you would typically hope to achieve is certain short-term things. So for example, if you look at the list of demands, release arrested protesters, governors, attorneys general, government officials have been working on that, with quite a bit of success. Justice and compensation. The state at NEC, as you spoke earlier about that, the NEC has asked the states to set up judicial panels of inquiry. Governors have started that. Kaduna, Enugu, Ogun, Delta, are just amongst Lagos, amongst the states that have done that. That's a medium-term thing because they have a 6-month mandate. And those things are it's very important, actually. Those judicial panels of inquiry, we must not downplay the impact or the importance, because what that does is that it gives people with legitimate grievances an opportunity to air those grievances before a panel that can actually get something done about them. So far, we've seen a lot of stories on social media. Tonight on my way here, if on WhatsApp stories, on Twitter, on Instagram, lots of heartbreaking stories of police brutality. But now, so social media has aired these things, but now is a chance with the judicial panels. This is a chance to actually get them before qualified people, judges, an independent panel that can actually listen and take action. Independent body to oversee prosecution of officers. That's also where the judicial panel of inquiry comes in, because they're going to make recommendations. And then I think one point that is important to make is that state attorneys general have the power to prosecute offending police officers. So that's the third one. Fourth one, psychological evaluation of disbanded officers. The police have spoken about that. I guess, people, of course, legitimately want to get more information. And I'm sure that in the days ahead, there will be more information, detailed information about exactly how that will happen. The police have assured that it will happen. And that none of the disbanded SARS personnel will make it into whatever will succeed SARS. The fifth one is police welfare. That's clearly a long-term thing. So it's on the 5 for 5 is the longest term item there. But even that, President Buhari last year signed the police trust fund bill. So for the first time in history, we have a police trust fund at the national level. You have security trust funds in some states, but a national level thing that will ensure that, the welfare of welfare or compensation of police officers is handled. So if you look at the 5 for 5, you can see that, quite tremendous progress has been made on all of these. And so I don't think it's fair to say that government has not done anything or is not doing anything. There is significant action. Again, it goes back to what I said, that never before has there been so much as police reform been this high on the agenda of any government since 1999.
John I see that you wanted to respond to what Tolu said.
We want, now the next one, we want education to be higher on the agenda too. We want our housing to be higher on the agenda too. We want our transportation, our road networks to be high on the agenda too. We want our healthcare to be high on the agenda too. We want our standard of living to be high on the agenda too. So this is just a start. So this government is either in need for a long haul to make a better Nigeria, and don't tell us as if it's only police reform that they owe us, because that is what I'm hearing. Oh, we've given you police reform. Don't talk as if police brutality is not something. I, my family, with the #1 sufferer of police brutality in this country. You know, like my grandmother, my father. So we kind of understand what is going on. And there were panels for all these abuses that was meted out on my family, right? There were panels. What came off the panel? There was Oputa panel too, when Obasanjo came. What came of it? They've done judicial review of judicial panel, judicial inquiry against SARS 2 years ago. What came of it? It was this same government in charge of it. What came of it? I can even remember Obasanjo that said, Oputa panel was just advisory. Doesn't have to implement anything he says. So there's also an issue of distrust. This government should not act as if the people trust them. They should not give themselves that. They should not wear that toga for themselves. That's what I'm saying. People should not sit down in their high offices in Abuja. Bring yourself off your high horse. Come and relate with the people that just voted for you. Come and really hear what is going on. Don't look online. Don't feel victimized. Don't think there's somebody trying to get you. No, this is your people trying to talk to you. This is actually a moment that we can actually build a bridge. But they don't want to hear that. People always want to feel like, oh, somebody is against what I've earned. Somebody is against what we are. No, we are saying, okay, police reform, yeah. Now we want other things that concern us to be high on your agenda too.
All right. Let me go back to, I'm very sure that Tolu has heard that. The issue of distrust. About 8 years ago, Channels Television did a documentary on some of the rot in the training process and the training college of the Nigerian police force. That was an audacious move that a television network made in this country. We saw what happened to us. We saw what came by of that kind of effort that was being made. It's not as if we do not know the problems of this country. Channels Television, for example, has highlighted that kind of problem. So for a start, there seemed to be a level of distrust.
Yeah, well, yes, yes, I agree with you that between the government and the governed, there's a trust deficit that did not start today. That is not in any way new. It has always existed, for as long as I can remember. And so, but I think the challenge before government is then to find ways to bridge that gap, to lessen that deficit. It's a long-term thing. You are not going to plug that gap in 6 months or in 1 year, but you can start somewhere. And this is where, and I think that this police reform is the perfect opportunity for government to start to demonstrate that, look, we have heard the people, we are listening to you, and we are taking steps. And so if you look at, for example, the committees, the judicial panels that have been set up in the states, one key component of it is youth involvement. Again, I don't think that we have ever had this level of youth involvement in the matter of police reform. In the first place, the NSAS protests have been led, the legitimate protests have been led by young people. So, young people have already achieved a lot, even in putting this thing high up on the agenda. Now, government is saying young people as well, you have a place in the judicial panels. You have a place, and so you can see now on social media that young people have started to have conversations about how do we get the best amongst us to go and stand in for us as on these panels, not as leaders necessarily, but just as I was listening to somebody today who used the word messengers. We're looking for young people to put up as messengers. So there are conversations about how do we do it? Do we do online voting to select people? But the most important thing is we want to have young people on these committees. Ultimately, the police reform we're going to talk about, this work is hard work. It's not going to happen on the streets. It's going to happen in committees, in offices, with engagement, people sitting down together to have conversations. I know young people don't want to hear that. I see a lot of people on social media who say, oh no, we don't want anything closed door. But look, that's how change happens in government. So the protests are good because they put things on the agenda. They compel government to deal with the quick wins. But the medium term, the long term work for lasting reform happens when people sit down to engage. And so talking about engagement, there are 5, so apart from all the other things going on,
we need to take
there's a
yet
lot of
another
work
break.
now
Just for a
going
moment.
into how
So,
do we
before you go
design-
into that, just for a moment, and I'd like you also to point out, Channels Television, I said this earlier, I thought that you were going to mention it, the training of these people, because a lot of people will say, where do we get these Nigerians who have become some kind of animals in the manner in which they treat people? And so Channels Television went to the bottom of the matter, brought out, highlighted the training process of these of officers, and we saw that it is despicable. Things are really bad, but no government is doing anything about it. I'd like you to mention that when we come back from this break, everyone. Up next on the program, we'll take another break, and when we return, agitations continue. The demands are on the table, but when will the protests end? Let's find out. Afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. And let's get back to the conversation. Seun Kuti, Mr. Hamadi Jibring, and Tolu Ogunlesi, the three of them have been talking about the EndSARS protest and the way forward for Nigeria. Tolu, before we went on that break, I was telling you that Channels Television has summed it up that the bottom of the problem is when you have a bad teacher, go and find out how that teacher was trained. When you have a bad police, the bad cop is being trained somewhere. We've sort of brought this 8 years ago, and we foresaw what is happening presently in Nigeria, and boom, in our faces, we're seeing the effect of the neglect of what the investigation that Channels Television did at that time. Is this government looking into? Have you been to the training college in Osun State? Have you been to the training college in Lagos to see the state of things there?
No, absolutely. Seun, I must commend, I remember the Channel's investigative piece. I must commend that, looking back now, it was a lot of foresight, into the issues of police reform. But, police welfare is just one aspect of it. It's a multifaceted thing. Police welfare, the state of police barracks, police training schools is just one aspect of a multifaceted problem. And it goes on to just make the point that I was making earlier, that this is a combination of short-term, medium-term, and long-term solutions. The issue of police welfare is clearly a long-term solution. Of course, we must start somewhere, but it is not something that you can solve, in 1 week or in 1 month or in 6 months. But you must start somewhere. And I think that if I'm not mistaken, I think the response of the government at that time to the Channel's investigative piece was quite disappointing, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that quite clearly you can see from the response of this government to the issues that are coming up that there's a change, or there's a clear difference in the attitudes of the two governments. So I think that, when we talk about trust deficits and all that, these are little pointers to show that, this, as I said again, I've said it again and again, is that this is the best chance that we have in a long time to actually get these issues fixed. I was talking earlier about the police reform work. So there was a panel set up in 2018 that put together quite a comprehensive document on, at that time it was focused on SARS to a large extent, and then also on larger issues of police reform. Now that SARS has been dissolved, is now a panel on police reform generally. And so this panel has done quite a lot of work, so a lot of work on designing the police force that we want. So there are 5 technical subcommittees that have been set up. Again, I know when people out there hear technical subcommittees, they say, oh, you people have come again with committees. But look, government change, this is how government change happens. It happens when people sit together to get work done. So the 5 technical subcommittees are going to be populated by experts by technical experts. So people from not just in government, but outside government, people with expertise in various fields. And I'll just quickly give you a list of what each of those committees is going to be doing. One of it is things around human resource capacity building for the police. Another one is about logistics, operational stuff. So that's infrastructure, communications, technology. A third one is about arrest, detention, and investigations. A fourth one is oversight and accountability. And the final one is financing, welfare, and partnerships. Now, so each of these committees is supposed to sit down and put together a work plan, and a costing, a budget. So, they're going to be doing foundational work, even down to things like, look, what does the police curriculum look like? What should it look like? In 2020, what should the police curriculum look like? How are we designing our police stations, for comfort? How are we, welfare, for example, how are we doing insurance for police officers? What are we doing about police pay? The technology subcommittee is about, what kind of technology should the 21st century police force be using? So the goal is a police force that is modern, that is responsive, that belongs to the 21st century, not a police force
Mr. Ogunlesi, I understand that. Just let me get the final thought of Mr. Jibring on this matter. And because he has worked as a director of military intelligence, give us a sense of what is happening and what are your thoughts on how to fix the police force in Nigeria with the present conversation around NSAS. Just in a minute, please.
Okay, issues have been identified already. You've done a very good job as a station to identify the aspect of training. I believe the training institutions are the cradle where the police are molded. There is need to look at the deficiencies in all their training institutions and ensure that they are given a first lift so that they serve as a modern police training school with all the necessary equipment and qualified teachers from all walks of life. So when you train them very well, they come out, you have better policing. Then the aspect of equipment, particularly communication and security equipments, because what is happening right now, the police need to be communicating with all the aspects of them that are on the road, on the street, in such a way that in each state, you have the control station should be able to communicate with all their patrol teams, and each patrol team should communicate with the other patrol teams. And they should have very good patrol vehicles maintained by the police, not by the by the police authorities, not by the police themselves. Another important aspect is the aspect of the welfare package. Recently, a new salary scale was approved for them along with other welfare package, and this needs to be implemented as soon as possible so that the police
let me allow Seun Kuti to come back into the conversation. Let me get your final thought. It doesn't look like you guys are backing down. When are we likely to see the end of the protest on the streets?
Oh, I mean, we did not predict the start of the protest. So as soon as the government starts to really hear the people in terms of those things that we are demanding, in terms of good governance, in terms of bringing the things that really matter to us, to the front of their own preoccupation. We have a government in place and we believe that they should do the job as one of the highest paid politicians in the world. They should be some of the hardest workers for their people. But we tend to have a country where the people continue to work to make things easier for those in government. And it shouldn't be that way. A country should work for the benefit of the people. So what we are saying is there must be a change in the relationship between the people, the government, and our commonwealth, how it is distributed, and those that benefit from it. This is what we, the people, are saying. And this is what we've always been saying. You understand? It is not about police reform. That's not all you owe us. You owe us good schools, livable wages, high standard of living, all the quality things that you and your family members enjoy in this country, and outside of it, we at least deserve to enjoy it here.
All right. Seun Kuti, Afrobeat musician, thank you so much for coming tonight.
It's my pleasure.
Tolu Ogunlesi is Assistant to the President on Digital and Social Media, and as well as Mr. Ahmed Jibrin, the Special Advisor to the Defense Minister on Technical Affairs. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in tonight. And here is my final word, everyone. Over the weekend, I posted some tweets about my personal views on the EndSARS and what I think needs to be done going forward. No doubt Nigerian youths have taken up a very critical role asking for what everyone inside and outside of government believe is good for this country, the fixing of the nation. We all know that Nigeria is blessed and abundantly too. But the shackles holding it back won't allow it fly in the clouds where it belongs. SARS is part of the bigger problem, but I see it as a metaphor of the rot in the continent's most populous nation. What has held us back from being great? If we fix SARS today, our major problem as a people might remain. So I tweeted that it is a good opportunity to fix some of the nagging problems of Nigeria over the years once and for all. Whichever political leadership in this country that makes this happen, we go down in history as a hero, and the people who push for it will forever be remembered, this generation, for each wonder that it has performed. But don't be deceived. These protests have triggered so many consciousness in our nation. Is indeed an eye-opener. And I've listed some of the fixes which you're seeing there on your screen, debated over the years, nothing new to the critical mind. Finally, in almost a decade of me working here at Channels Television, I've seen deliberate and perhaps some of the highest levels of professionalism at display by the leadership of this organization. We are Nigerians at Channels Television, and we owe it to this nation our best to make this nation great. We are elite of the industry, and we take that seriously. We work hard to protect the unity, peace, and integrity of Nigeria. If it is the truth, if it is balance, and it's professional, Channels Television will follow through, and that is what we stand for. In our time, this nation will be great again. And that's my final word, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Seun Okinbaloye. Bye-bye.